Hey everybody, Matt Johnston here, and we are talking about recovery and getting moving on with business. President Trump and many state governors are starting to contemplate or even begin to open up certain public spaces for more people to be in, and that part of the recovery it's going to happen, and we just have to sort of take note of those changes. But in this particular video, I want everybody to start to acknowledge a three-word slogan. It's often used by the U.S. Navy SEALs, or certainly attributed to the Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs being one of the most performance-driven and high-performing organizations in the world. And their slogan is, "Embrace the suck." Look, we all know that business is going to suck right now, particularly if you're one of the businesses that's been closed down by government orders or your business operations have been greatly curtailed. You have to embrace the suck. Acknowledge where you are, acknowledge what the business looks like, and start making plans for moving forward. So some specific things that I encourage people to look at is look right now at what your current operations are. What are you doing? If you are close to operating in a normal fashion, this will be pretty easy. If you've had to greatly adapt your working situation, so for example, I have clients who are health clubs or gyms, and they have turned to giving an awful lot of their instruction online. So they have private courses, even private one-on-one sessions between their coaches and patients, or they're having small group situations where people are paying for a specific access and getting a little bit more personal coaching to the extent that that's possible through Zoom or through some other video medium. How has that changed your business? Certainly it may have changed your cash flow, and it's probably changed some of the legal protections or legal things that you have to put in place, but you probably didn't put them in place. So look at your business model and see what's working, what's not. Most people have had between 2 and 5 or 6 weeks of operating in these new ways, and this is an opportunity for those folks to get some decent data about how you can continue to operate that way, maybe roll those kinds of mechanisms into your normal business model, even if it's on a reduced level. So rather than spending, for example, all your time doing online classes, maybe you're doing 15 or 20% of your time, instructional time, doing it online or doing it in a private situation via video. All of those things are part and parcel of what's happened as part of your recovery, or your more likely your emergency situations, but it can be part of your recovery. So when you're looking at these things, look at what the cash flow is. Look at what supplies you may need. So right now, your business coaches, or your coaches if you're a gym, or your restaurant, has been operating pretty much winging it. And let's be honest, and that's okay. But start to finalize. If we wanted to keep this business, what situations would we need? What equipment? What supplies? What personnel you're going to need that is a little bit different than what you have right now? Can your current personnel continue to operate both traditional services and these new services that you have started to include in your business model? Embracing these ideas and embracing the potential is one way that you can start looking at what's going to be needed. Once you figure out both equipment, personnel, supplies, things of that nature, start thinking about how do you continue to advertise these situations? How do you continue to explain to people that, hey, one, we are now offering these services in addition to our regular traditional services? The other thing you need to think about in your communications with customers is how do you get them back in your facility if you're a place that has, the public coming in. You're going to have to address issues of cleaning and safety. You're going to have to address issues of personal protective equipment, policies for people coming in. I bring up the policies for bringing people in because in the state of Maryland, we have a if you're going into a public space like a store or a restaurant to pick up food or something like that, you're required to be wearing a face mask. It can be a bandana or a scarf or something like that, but you're required to have something on. And if you don't have a policy in which you are willing to enforce a similar provision, so even after the government starts to lift some of these orders, you can still require your customers to be wearing face masks or personal protection equipment when they come into your facility, rather than simply relying on government. And you have to communicate that. You also have to be willing to, I guess for lack of a better term, admonish your customers for failing to follow procedures. So these communications with your customers, with your patients, with your clients, with whoever it is that's coming in to partake in your services, you're going to have some policies put in place. So when we start talking about sort of embracing the suck and dealing with the conditions as they stand and what you want to do going forward, this is where the mental models that I've previously talked about come into play. Your competitors are going to be doing the same kinds of thinking, and so you're going to want to start to look at what can we do to shorten our decision-making loop and maybe grab a little bit more market share than we had before. And that involves understanding what your OODA loop is, the Observe, Orient, Decide, Act loop, and it also involves an assessment of what your programs are going to be. Now, one of the things that I like to do is work with clients to figure out where it is they want to go, what it is they want to do. So as you're thinking about including these new services, how do you want to go about doing that? And once you have that goal in mind, you have a vision of how you want to be operating, then you need to start making a map backwards from that point in time. And think about all of the decisions that you have to make, or all of the materials, personnel, policies, whatever it is you need to make your goal a reality. You need to start thinking about, when do you acquire those things? When do you make the decisions about that? What information do you need to make decisions? That way you're looking at the problem from a viewpoint of goal, and then making a plan to achieve that goal, versus, oh, it would be nice to do X, and sort of winging it. I think a lot of people at this point are a little tired of just sort of making decisions on the fly. And having a plan, having a goal, and working backwards from that goal helps you develop a plan for implementation, helps you develop the discipline necessary to figure out where you want to be. So when you're starting to talk about recovery, this is the time when you have to sort of start to think a little bit more creatively. If you want some help working through this process, I'm happy to do so. It's one of the fun things that I like to do. I get to do it very often. And it's one thing where we can work with perhaps some other professionals to help achieve these goals. In the meantime, I hope everybody is doing well, and I will talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.